He slid $5 across the table and waited for her to break. The room held its breath. What she said next did not raise her voice. It rewrote a billion-dollar future. The money lay there, thin and final, like an insult pretending to be kindness. $5. On a table that could have fed a family for a week? On a bill that was already paid in silence? The man who left it did not look up. He had already decided who she was. Around them, the restaurant kept moving, plates clinking, forks scraping, strangers chewing through their own lives. No one noticed the way her hands paused. No one saw the storm that crossed her face and settled into calm. She was small in the way that comes from standing. It's too long and asking for nothing. Her name was Clara Hale. She wore the same soft blue uniform every shift, washed until it barely remembered its color. Her hair was pulled back tight, not for style but for speed. She moved with care, with a steady rhythm that did not rush and did not slow. Her eyes carried something older than the room, something that had learned how to stay quiet and still when the world grew loud. The man was known everywhere. Elias Crown. His name filled buildings and bank screens. He had bought companies with a nod. He had buried rivals with a smile. He had come to this quiet place because he believed truth only showed itself when money was withheld. He believed people revealed their worth when tested. Tonight, he wanted to see what $5 would pull from a woman who served him. Water without asking for praise, Clara picked up the bill and the tip together. Her fingers brushed the table once, as if to say goodbye to the moment. She did not sigh. She did not frown. She did not glance around for help. She looked at the $5 as if it were a mirror, not an answer. In the first moments of knowing her, no one would guess what she carried. She did not carry medals or wear scars that caught the eye. Her strength was quieter than that. It lived in the way she stood straight even when her back hurt. It lived in the way she listened fully, even when no one listened back. She was a waitress now, but she had once worn gloves stained with blood that was not hers. She had once counted heartbeats in the dark. Before this room, before this night, Clara had lived another life. One where sleep came in short pieces and silence meant danger. She had been a nurse in a field hospital far from this city, far from clean floors and soft lights. She had learned the smell of fear mixed with metal and dust. She had learned how pain sounded when it tried not to be heard. She had held hands that went cold while she whispered comfort she did not believe, but still gave. She remembered the heat of those days, the way sweat soaked into her clothes and never left. She remembered the faces of young men who tried to smile so she would not worry. She remembered the weight of choices made in seconds. Save this one now or that one later. She remembered the quiet after, when the world felt hollow and too wide. When she came home, the world had moved on without her. The job she once had was gone. The promises made were delayed, then forgotten. She took work where she could. She learned how to carry plates instead of stretchers. She learned how to smile when people did not see her. She learned that dignity could be folded small and kept safe. Back in the restaurant, Elias watched her from the corner of his eye. He expected anger. He expected shame. He expected a plea wrapped in politeness. He believed wealth sharpened instinct. He believed he could read people like numbers. Clara did not do what he expected. She did not pocket the money right away. She placed it back on the table, not pushed toward him, not thrown away, just returned to where it had been. Her voice, when she spoke, was steady and soft. Strong enough to reach him without reaching for him. She said that she hoped he had enjoyed his meal. She said that kindness did not measure itself in bills. She said that respect was not something she earned from a tip. It was something she brought with her. The words did not cut. They did not accuse. They simply stood there, plain and true. In that moment, the room shifted. Not loudly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But something changed in Elias Crown. Something old and buried stirred awake. Around them, people kept eating. A couple laughed at a corner table. A child spilled a drink. No one came to her side. No one clapped or gasped. In that silence, the weight of the moment grew heavier. Clara picked up her tray and moved on. She did not wait for a reply. Elias stayed seated long after she left. He felt heat rise in his face, not from anger, but from something closer to shame. He had tested her and failed his own test. He had come looking for weakness and found a mirror instead. Over the next weeks he returned, always at the same hour, always alone, always leaving $5. Clara served him the same way each time, with care, with calm, with no change in her voice. The test became routine, then ritual. He watched her help an older man cut his food. He watched her kneel to speak to a child at eye level. He watched her listen when a woman cried over cold coffee. Elias began to ask questions that were not about food. He asked how long she had worked there. He asked where she was from. She answered only what was needed. She never told him about the nights without sleep or the hand she had held. She did not trade her story for approval. One evening, a man at another table raised his voice at Clara. He complained about a mistake that was not hers. He leaned forward, loud and sharp. The room went quiet in that way that pretends not to be quiet. Clara listened. She apologized for the trouble. She fixed the issue. She did not defend herself. She did not shrink. Elias watched her take the words and set them down gently, as if they could not hurt her. That night, when Elias left, he did not place $5 on the table. He placed nothing. Clara still wished him a good night. She still meant it. The next morning, Elias sat alone in a glass office, high above the city. Papers spread before him. His will lay open, marked and heavy. It listed names he barely remembered, foundations that carried his name, but not his care. He stared at the words and felt their emptiness. Wealth had filled his life with sound, but not with meaning. He had built empires and still felt small. He thought of Clara returning the money without anger. He thought of her saying that respect was something she brought with her. The line echoed in him, simple and unmovable. He realized he had spent his life trying to buy what could only be given. He asked his assistant to find her. Not to offer money, not to apologize, just to listen. When he returned to the restaurant, he did not sit at his usual table. He waited near the door. When Clara finished her shift, he thanked her. He told her that her words had stayed with him. He told her that she had reminded him of something he had lost. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not explain himself. Clara listened. She nodded. She said that people often forgot how much power lived in small choices. She said that dignity did not need a stage. Elias left that night lighter than he had arrived. Over the next months, changes rippled outward. Quiet changes. He funded hospitals that trained nurses for crisis zones. He set up support for workers who served unseen. He rewrote his will, not as a gesture, but as a correction. When the time came, when his health faded and his name filled headlines one last time, the story surfaced. Reporters searched for the reason behind the shift. They expected a scandal. They found a waitress. Clara never sought the attention. She did not attend events or accept praise. When asked about the $5, she simply said that people should be careful what they test, because sometimes the answer changes everything. On the day the will was read, a crowd gathered outside the building that bore Elias Crown's name. Inside, lawyers spoke of numbers that bent the mind. A portion of the fortune went to causes that served without applause. Another portion went to Clara, not as a reward, but as trust. A trust to build something lasting. Something kind. She used it the way she lived. Quietly, she opened a center for caregivers who had seen too much and been given too little. She made sure no one had to fold their dignity small to survive. On the wall, she placed a single line, simple and true. Respect is not earned by silence. It is proven by it. People who came through the doors felt it. The calm, the care, the steady hands. They did not know her story. They did not need to. It lived in the way the place held them. Some nights Clara returned to the restaurant. She sat at a corner table and watched the room. She tipped well. She smiled when servers passed. She remembered the weight of a moment that no one else had seen, and somewhere, in the space between power and humility, a lesson remained. that the smallest act can expose the deepest truth. That silence can speak louder than wealth. That respect, once given freely, can change a life, and sometimes, legacy. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from and what moment stayed with you. Subscribe for more stories that honor quiet strength and unseen courage.